Hey everyone, it's me, SoCal Val. It's a beautiful day in California. I am your host, and this is my new Digital Creator Series. Whether you're already creating content as a blogger or influencer, or you're just looking for more ways to be social media savvy, this is the show for you. And today we've got a wonderful guest that's a great friend of mine, and he's here to offer his insight into the fashion world and styling and all things glam. Please welcome trend forecaster, fashion director of Asbo Magazine, and my bestie, Ash, aka Ashanista. How we doing, Ash?
Good afternoon. Hi. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to try and share what I know in the world of fashion, which I'm very excited to talk to your viewers about today and to give my insights about this crazy world that is fashion.
It is a crazy world, and let's just face it, this is our way of just being able to chat because you are so much fun and you are so knowledgeable about the world of fashion. So if you guys learn something and you have fun, then we've done our jobs today. But Ash, I have to ask you first off, who are you wearing? You look amazing.
Well, thank you very much. We clearly got the memo today.
Hashtag double denim, Canadian tuxedo.
Exactly. All of my outfit today, I tend to wear a lot of ASOS at the moment. I'm really loving ASOS. A lot of my clothes are very much high street. I'm a very supporter of high street brands. So this top is ASOS, the t-shirt is ASOS. This is an amazing jewelry designer called Me and Zena, which is an amazing brand. It's actually my sister's necklace, but she doesn't know that I'm wearing it, but I'm wearing it, so thanks, Naz. So yeah, generally everything is on ASOS, and a pair of my glasses, and I've got a little bit of bling on as well. So
of course, you are always so well accessorized and so put together. I mean, I don't know if we have time to tell the whole story of how we met, but basically we met at fashion events, and the first time we, it's such a long story, but the first time we actually hung out outside of a fashion event, well, we were going to a fashion event, our first meetup, I'll never forget, you showed up in like a deep emerald green fur collar and glasses, and I just thought, that's it, we're best friends immediately. We already knew. But I wanted to save a certain piece. I've been doing a lot of interviews, and I wanted to save this piece today. I feel very Elizabeth Taylor. It is a vintage Valentino necklace from Best Year Collective. Yeah, Best Year Collective I actually discovered through London Fashion Weekend.
Yeah.
And Ash, we have been to so many fashion events here in the UK. Do you have any favorites? Any favorite memories?
The beginning of the year when we did the show at London Men's, I mean, I usually go to many shows. I don't really visit London Men's, but London Men's collection I thought was quite fun. Any show I do hang around with you is fun anyway. So
oh my gosh,
yeah,
it's so
fun. I really enjoyed that. It was a different thing for me looking at some of the most creative. Menswear has a bit of a negative view sometimes because a lot of people think menswear is quite boring, but I feel that it's really kind of up to its game, and a lot of people are really excited more about menswear now than they are with women's. I think it's kind of on an equal level now.
I think there's a nice flow going into genderless clothing. So in the men's week that we went to, which by the way, guys, you can catch that entire episode right here on IGTV and YouTube. We saw some beautiful things from Cashew Balendra and just gorgeous, gorgeous pieces during that event. And I'm telling you, we really were on a hot streak of going to so many events and bringing you guys content. But unfortunately with lockdown, we've hit a bit of a bump in the road, but rest assured, we already have some great plans that when the lockdown is lifted, more content from Ash and I will be coming out to all of these events. Pure London we love, Moda, Scoop London, London Fashion Week. So wherever there's fashion,
London Queer Fashion Show, Graduate Fashion Week. There's so many different events which are going on. Africa Fashion Week as well. There's a lot of different fantastic events which are happening. So I cannot wait. Even though a lot of these are going to be digital this year, but I cannot wait to really physically get back to start going to shows. We were planning to do something internationally this year. Yeah. Hopefully we still can, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, and we're very positive people, and that certainly aids us very well in the kind of work that we do, which is presenting fashion. And Ash, for the people that are just meeting you for the first time, they've probably seen you on my Instagram quite a few times, maybe with some splash Prosecco. that tends to happen. But if they're not familiar with what you actually do in the fashion world, can you give us sort of a rundown?
Yes, of course. So my background, I mean, firstly, I fell into fashion by accident. I never intended to be in this industry. I wanted to work in television production, but then I slowly found myself working in the fashion industry. I knew I was going to do something creative. So what I do, I'm a trend forecaster, which For those of you who want to know what trend forecast is, we don't sit there with a crystal ball and be like, the colour is green. There's a lot of sort of investigations which are going on, a lot of research.
Are you sure you don't have a crystal ball? Because I feel like you would look really good in a turban. I'm just throwing it out there.
Maybe that's something we can review later on. But yeah, I do a lot of trend forecasting. So I work with trend prediction companies, and we work with brands, and we give them insight and analysis of what's happening in terms of social, street, music. All of these things have a lot of influence on what's going on in fashion at the moment. And I'm also the fashion director for Asbo Magazine, which is a fantastic publication. We're 7 issues in now. A lot of people said, oh, why would you want to start up a magazine when print's dying? Well, I can tell you that there's still a love for print magazines, but also it's combining print and digital and getting those platforms right. So I work very closely with a lot of young designers, young stylists, young photographers, and it's really given them an insight of what it's like to be in this industry. But they're having like a finished product which they can go out and, you know, just showcase the content. So I do a lot of mentoring in this particular role. So mentoring young people, telling them what it's really like and giving them real-time experience of being in an industry.
I did start this series because I wanted to literally educate people on the world of styling. And obviously, you know, it's just something that I love and have a passion for. And anyone these days can be an influencer, a blogger, things like that. But you actually have this as your career in terms of helping people discover their own personal style and creating these beautiful shoots. I'm so happy that we have some photos to show you of that. But also you have a lot of ties in India. I know when we've chatted during the week, which we're always talking about Drag Race and different things and just chatting because we're besties, but you have a lot of influence in Indian fashion as well. Can you expound on that?
And I think a lot of it's done from my work when I was working in trend forecasting. I've done a lot of work with Indian brands, and that's also, again, with Asbo, it's actually opened up an opportunity for me to go into a different part of my career, which is I'm doing a lot more teaching. So I'm working with the School of Fashion and Technology, which I've now just been announced as the one of the international mentors. So I teach fashion and contextual studies to students there, basically giving much more of a global overview of what's going on in the fashion market. And I'm also currently teaching at ISDI, which is a fashion university based out in Mumbai, which is has affiliations with Parsons University, and I'm doing a lot of work with them at the moment. So I'm doing quite a few online classes, getting up at, say, 6 a.m. and by about 10 a.m. in the morning, I've done pretty much a full day's worth of work, and then I have a break, and then I go into my other sort of aspects of what I do for a living as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm loving the links that I have with India. India is it's such a contradiction, and it's such a juxtaposition of a place. There's a lot of people have this preconceived idea that it's just Bollywood, but the creative scene in India is phenomenal. There's a lot of great untapped talent, and I'm having such a great time really discovering the street style, the young designers which are coming out there, the young creators are very hungry, and I love being part of that and being part of their journey. So
that's amazing. And I love that we not only champion everything on the high street. I mean, I'm wearing New Look, you're in ASOS, and there are so many wonderful high street brands available to us.
Yeah.
But it's really finding those independent designers, or going to Fashion Week and discovering some lesser known designers that I think have a really personal spin on the way that you dress and the way that everyone's dressing. Have you found that social media has been helpful or harmful to you?
I definitely think it's been helpful for me. So in addition to this, I'm also head of fashion for an e-com studio called 100% Studios, which I work a lot with brands, and I do talk a little bit about social media strategy, as well as obviously producing content and stuff with clients as well. But I definitely think for me, and with anybody that's getting into this industry, I think you've got to have some sort of knowledge on social media. And I'm not talking just about Instagram, but I'm talking about, LinkedIn from a professional level, because especially if you're, want to do this as a career, I found I got a lot of my jobs, luckily, from LinkedIn, and I've been very fortunate to, grow such a professional network and make such amazing connections through LinkedIn, as well as going to things like fashion shows and things like that. I mean, you've seen what I'm like at shows. Yes, we have fun, but I'm there to work. I'm very much kind of like, let's
we call it Ash work mode. Like when Ash is in work mode, from like the first time I saw it, I was like, who's this? Like, where'd Ash go? It's great though, because you're able to switch on and off, and you're able to sort of bifurcate that sort of personal and professional life, which I think is really important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that because a lot of people have this preconceived idea that fashion people just go out, or for a blogger, it's about just going out and just being whatever. But there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I'm hoping that people who are watching this will get to understand, I know you're going to be talking to a lot more people, but they'll get to understand that this is actually a job and there's a lot of work that goes into it. And especially the pre-work, looking at things like LinkedIn, looking at really presenting yourself on social media. And the key thing as well is to have the same sort of voice, which is going through different social media channels. So whatever you're presenting to yourself on LinkedIn, which is basically a professional platform, try and replicate that in terms of what you're doing on your Instagram as well. So you've got the same sort of voice, but obviously, you're just trying to differentiate, but still keep the same message on both channels, on Instagram or Pinterest or whatever. So
it's a lot of hustling. And I'm so glad that you touched on how much work that it is, because anything that you're doing in terms of blogging, influencing, or digital creating, or, in your case, being a fashion director of a magazine and trend forecasting, there's so much work that goes into it. And I think that people have a really weird common misconception that if it's fashion related, it's just fluff and you're trying hats on all day. But you work so hard. So I have to ask about, do you have a daily routine, or are you playing it by ear? And how the hell are we staying motivated in this lockdown? Have you found that it's easy, or it's worse, harder?
I will say, actually, I am a little bit more organized now. Beforehand, when we were in lockdown, a lot of my life is I would spend most of my time working at 100% studios, and then my evenings will be like picking up stuff with ASBO or doing the odd trend forecasting thing, or maybe doing like a couple of, I work ridiculous hours, I'll be honest, and sometimes it's been a bit difficult to switch off. One thing I've learned through lockdown is it's important to have that time to switch off, but I have had issues with mental health in terms of obviously being, suffering from anxiety and depression and being, burnout, which is a big thing as well. And it was basically because I was doing too much and not letting my body rest. And I've now come to the stage like I'm taking time to chill out, which is really, really important. But in terms of what you're saying, I'm a little bit more structured now. I get up, the first thing I do, not check social media. I get up, I have a glass of water, because I find if you have water to start the day, it kind of gets you into the right type of mood. Do a workout, check what's going on social, check. Obviously, as the forecast, so I need to know what's going on in the news, check what's going on in the fashion news, as well as obviously social things as well. And then basically then plan out my day. So if I'm teaching, then I know that I need to go to bed early because I'm going to be getting up early to teach, students in India. If I'm not teaching and I'm doing other sort of research work, then I kind of plan my day around that. But I think now I have more of a routine, whereas beforehand it was just very much kind of just take each day as it comes, really, and just kind of go with the flow. But I felt that I've learned a lot of good things on lockdown, which I'm going to try and implement when we get back to normal life, whatever that's going to look like.
And I hope that we're as productive as we are now, because you and I have talked outside of filming, and we've talked about how actually we're doing really well health-wise, and we're kind of working out more and eating healthier, and just being more mindful of everything in terms of our health and mental health, and physically, but also mentally, So speaking of mental health and things that we're concerned about, sustainability is a huge concern for all of us that are in fashion. I've talked with a lot of people in these interviews about re-wearing old clothing and restyling old clothing. Is this something that obviously is not a trend, but it's kind of been a movement that you're on board with?
Definitely. And I think sustainability is not just about, what's going on fashion-wise. I think sustainability is generally like a lifestyle now. And I feel that with this lockdown, I'm doing some amazing work at the moment. I'm part of a collaborative team working on this project with a real dear friend of mine, Paolo De Luca, who runs an agency called Trend Vision, and we're doing a project which is the Trend Book, which has been produced for about 22 years now. So we're working on the 2022 edition of the Trend Book. And one of the big things that we're looking at is how we are slowing down as society. We're very much kind of looking at, and I feel that the lockdown and, the coronavirus has basically made us look at how we're living our lives right now. Everything is very much slowing down. It's, we are looking at well-being a lot more in terms of our inner being, in terms of our inner selves, our mental health. And obviously, we were going to a stage that everything was very sort of mass consumption. But I think that this has really kind of shook us a little bit. It's kind of made us think as well in terms of how we're looking after ourselves, but also how we're looking after our planet, how we're looking after each other. So I definitely think we're in a bit of a reset at the moment. It's going to be very interesting the next, couple of years moving forward once we get out of this pandemic, because it's going to take a long time to really get back to some sort of normality. And I was very fortunate to be part of a talk in India where we did a session called Cracks, which basically the concept was whenever there's sort of fault lines in an industry and cracks appear, that's where light shines in, and that's basically where you can see sort of directions. And I was talking amongst an audience and talking about how things are changing. And I think a lot more consumers now are demanding more. We're a lot smarter as consumers. We're not, gone are the days where we used to buy things beforehand. I think, especially with millennials and Gen Z coming up, they're so much more savvier and they're so much more demanding in terms of what they want and what something which is authentic and something which is real. And it's a real sort of change and shift which is happening. And I think it's going to be really interesting couple of years going forward when we're looking at this. So
the fact that this is happening is awful, but if it makes everyone more mindful about sustainability and about their mental health and taking care of themselves, and like you said, being able to switch off. I'm very guilty of not being good at switching off and relaxing. I don't feel comfortable doing absolutely nothing. I'm always hustling, and you're the same way, and that's why we bond creatively as well as just having a friendship, for sure. Well, we're so happy to have some photos from your lookbook with Paula, and she seems amazing. She seems absolutely fabulous in every sense of the word. How did you get into sort of more of the jewelry? Because another reason why I wanted to wear this today was because I know that you're really focusing on jewelry when it comes to your collaboration with Paula. But have you always had a love of jewelry, or has it developed over the years?
It's kind of developed over the years. I mean, when I started out, before working in fashion, I actually worked for a jewelry magazine, and I've known Paula coming up for I think it's about 20 years. I don't know. I apologise if I'm wrong. But I've worked in jewellery for a long time. And I think my love of jewellery then kind of like went into fashion. And then I remember meeting Paula and I was like, oh, what do you do? Because she's pretty much my inspiration in terms of getting into like trend forecasting and, doing what I'm doing right now, because I see what she does and I'm trying to do it in my own sort of way. And, I've always had a love for jewellery. It's something which I started with, and then, when I got into fashion, it became more about fashion and design and creating, and then again, it's always been there, because I do feel like both industries are kind of very much interlinked. You can't have jewellery without fashion. You can't have fashion without jewellery. So I definitely think there's interlinking from there. And I think that jewellery now is a fashion accessory. I know a lot of traditional jewellers will probably disagree with that statement, but I definitely think that jewellery is a fashion accessory. I think it's very accessible. You've got multi-levels of where you can buy, from really sort of premium high-end stuff to, really sort of vintage pieces, right down to high street jewellery. So yeah, exactly. So I've always had a bit of a love affair with jewellery, and it's nice to tap into it and also bring a fashion perspective onto things as well, which is essentially what I'm doing on this project. So,
and it's all sort of inclusive, isn't it? I mean, it's not just about the clothes. Fashion is not just clothes. It's not just jewelry. It's shoes. It's accessories. It's how you put things together. And your Instagram feed is so much fun to follow in so many ways. But if anyone is actually looking to get into the fashion industry, I'm so happy to have you on here. They can contact you. They can follow you on Instagram. We're going to make sure we have your information on the screen so they can follow you immediately. But any final thoughts, Ash, about where the world of fashion is going and what's next for you in it?
Okay. How long have we got?
No pressure. That was a very deep question. I don't know where I went with that one.
I think it's an interesting time for fashion, definitely. I think, as I was mentioned earlier, I definitely think we're going for this whole sort of reset. So we're going to see a lot more, you've seen people blogging about sort of like fashion in lockdown. A lot of people are looking at, repurposing, upscaling, which is going to be a big thing, especially going forward in terms of designs, in terms of, really kind of a lot of craftsmanship is going to be a big thing as well.
Right.
In terms of projects that I'm working on next, issue 7, as I mentioned earlier, of Asbo is about to drop, which I'm very excited about. The cover, James, who's the creative director, and Shout out to David Weller as well, who's the founder of the magazine. Outlanders as this time with the cover. It's very much of the moment. And what I love about ASBO is that we're always trying to touch about what's going on at the moment. And it's very fortunate for me because I work with a lot of international schools. I have access to a lot of international designers and, photographers and stylists, and, I get great commissions and submissions from people as well. So I'm very excited about pushing that, the next issue of ASBO dropping. Obviously, I mentioned about the trend book, so that will be published in September, which I'm super excited about that. Again, that's in association with Trend Vision, and the book's going to be produced. We're doing a webinar on the 8th of June, where we're going to give a bit of a sneak peek of some of the key sort of drivers which are going to be driving to fashion, like siloless, which is a big thing, which is talking about, identity, gender fluidity, but taking that onto a next level, as well as what's going on in terms of obviously celebration, in terms of like the slow movement. So there's a lot of stuff which is going on there. And generally I'm just looking forward to create. I'm always looking at new projects. I'm always excited about teaching. So I'm very excited about fashion. I'm very excited about what's going to happen with me in fashion as well. So it's an exciting time going forward, I think.
It is an exciting time, and I'm so glad that you said that, because we are very positive people, and I hope that whoever's watching finds the positivity in what's going on right now. That yes, it sucks to be home, but listen, if you are a hustler, if you have a creative eye and you want to get more into social media, more into fashion, more into styling, this is the time to do it. And hopefully you enjoyed this interview with Ash today. Ash, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so honoured, and keep doing what you're doing. I think this is amazing that you're using your platform to, to share insight with people, and kudos to you. Wow.
Oh, love you. Thank you so much for being here, Ash. Great interview. I knew it would be. I'm surprised that we actually curtailed it, because we could sit here and talk fashion all day.
Exactly.
But if you'd like to know more about Ash and the amazing things he's doing, you have such a great eye for fashion, such intrinsic style. You guys are going to want to check out the lookbook. I've had a sneak peek. It's amazing. So if you want to follow Ash, just follow him right here on Instagram at Ashanista. There'll be more coming from Ash and I when we can get to some fashion events, and probably more right here digitally as well, just for you. So until next time, guys, I'm SoCal Val. Thanks for watching the California Digital Creators Series. Stay tuned for more.